Ubisoft CEO fights back against Stop Killing Games initiative, and of course, it would be Ubisoft, though, wouldn't it? Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot addressed the Stop Killing, is it Yves Guillemot? Addressed the Stop Killing Games campaign during the company's 2025 shareholder meeting, one where I'm sure the shareholders are all very, very angry and upset. Responded to concerns about game preservation and ownership. During the July 10 session, an attendee asked Guillemot if Ubisoft supported the Stop Killing Games petition, citing the crew's delisting and server shutdown as a turning point for the movement. Now, for a lot of you that don't know, a lot of games that are coming out these days have like always online stuff, or they rely on official servers or private servers in order for you to actually be able to play the game. Right, there's even some games that are like single player, but you need to always be online to actually play them, even though you're not playing against other people. It's a single player game, right? But what happens is if these games sort of fall out of favor a little bit, or people just aren't playing them much, what companies are doing is they are shutting the servers down. So essentially your game's just bricked. You cannot play it because you need to be able to join servers in order to be able to play the game. Now, that can sometimes be circumvented by basically giving people the code and the tools that they need to run their own private servers, and there's a lot of games that are still actually being held up by that. Another one that I really like, and I like to log into it now and again just to like get a few wee quick games. Aliens vs Predator 2. The old one that came out in like 99 or 2000 or something like that. I love that game. I sank hundreds of hours into that game when I was a child, right? And the last time I went on it was something like 6-7 years ago or something like that. And there were servers where basically people were running their own private servers so that you could play in multiplayer matches. And to be fair, this is a downside of it when a game's been completely abandoned by the devs and they're like, here's the code, take care of it yourself, player base, which is fine. However, I joined the game. I like the life cycle game where it's kind of like gun game, but you're like an alien. And see how in gun game, whenever you get a kill with a gun, it upgrades to the next gun. With an alien, you upgrade to the next life cycle of the alien. And if you get like 6 kills, you become the queen. I was in one of them, and there was a person who was the queen alien who was flying through the air. And anytime the Queen Alien done a little slash attack, she was firing rockets like a Gatling gun. So the Queen Alien was flying through the air and just demolishing everyone on the map by firing rockets, which was a little bit annoying, but funny. Right, that's the downside of older games, where it's like, hacks, cheats, who cares, bro? This game came out 20 years ago. No, we're not touching that code again. What do you mean? Report. The guys who dealt with that don't even work here anymore. They've retired, right? But that's just a downside. However, players should have the ability to keep playing the games that they paid for, right? If you don't want to run official servers, then give the player base the tools that they need in order to host their own servers. There you are, problem solved. But that's not what people are doing. Basically, you get a game that you get to play for like 2-3 years until the server's shut down. Then after that, you can't play the game anymore. And they're not giving out the tools so that players can carry on the game's legacy. That's what Stop Killing Games is about, regardless of what Pirate Software tells you. But anyway, they also asked him what it means to own a Ubisoft game if affected titles became unplayable in the future. In response, Guillemot admitted that the issue was real and one that the entire industry was dealing with, which is true. But basically, I understand that hosting servers costs money. It costs money to host servers. Yeah, that's fine. However, you're Ubisoft, right? And if you don't want to host your own servers, then basically on your website have a section of here's a bunch of old games, here's the tools and software that you need to host your own server. That's something you can do, and there's that's done with so many old games. So many old games. There's loads and loads of old games that I wish. See how you get some old games that get remade? I want Enemy Infestation to be remade. This one's probably a good bit before any of your times. I loved Enemy Infestation. I loved that game. It's so good. But the only way you can get it now is like cracked copies, and they're not great. Very, very buggy because the game's used to running on like Windows 95 and 98. So see if you try and run it on like Windows 10 or 11, it doesn't work very well. Ubisoft players are warned when games may be discontinued. It's nice that they warn them, but people want to keep playing the game that they paid for. Guillemot told shareholders that Ubisoft works hard to ensure games stay playable, saying the company offers a lot of support and services to keep games accessible 24/7. However, he stated that support can't last forever. This is an issue we've been dealing with, he said, but the issue is not specific to Ubisoft. All video game publishers are faced with that issue. You provide a service, there's that word again, but nothing is written in stone. I mean, it's in the user agreement that you make everybody agree to when they install the game. But anyway, and at some point the service may be discontinued, nothing is eternal. But it can be. It can be if you give the player base the tools to continue the servers. I found that player-run servers are usually better. A little bit worse for hackers and stuff like that. Yeah, that's fine, but still, sometimes better actually. It depends on if they've got a good mod team. He added that Ubisoft makes efforts to inform buyers about how long a game will remain playable. I mean, I don't know how if you're going to know that. I don't know if you know the trajectory that the game's going to go on. But anyway, players and buyers are forewarned that eventually the game may be discontinued, he said. We are doing our best to make sure things go well for our players and buyers. Guillemot closed by calling it a far-reaching issue and said Ubisoft is actively working on solutions. So at least they're acknowledging the issue. They're acknowledging it's a bit of a serious issue that gamers are quite right to be concerned with, because especially with the cost of games these days, where it's like, if I buy a game, I want to be able to play that game forever, whenever I want. I've still got my old consoles. I've got my old SNES, where I play Super Mario World, the very first video game. It's sometimes, but once every couple of years, I'll go in and do a playthrough. You can knock through it in a few hours. At least I can. I'm fucking brilliant at it, right? But still, like, people like to replay old games. And there's other, like I said, with Enemy Infestation, it's a game that I would love to replay. It's so good, right? It is an acquired taste. And it's old. You can tell when you look at it, it's an old game. But I would like it to be remade, modernised. But hey-ho. Guillemot closed it, but I've just read that. It's worth noting that the Stop Killing Games initiative's main goal is to ensure games with online-only components are updated when their service ends so that they continue to be playable offline once the servers are turned off. And yes, that's true. Remember what I said, even if it's a single-player game, you have to connect to the internet in order to be able to play it, which makes absolutely zero sense. Like, the only time I see that it's necessary for games to connect to the internet is, one, patches. First and foremost, obviously. I remember back in the day, whatever game you got, that's what you got. That was it. Was there a bug? Was there something broken in it? Tough. That's there forever now. And then the other one, obviously, is online multiplayer modes. Right? That's the only time it should connect. Right? If you're a single player game, there's no reason for it to have to connect to the internet for you to be able to play it. Right, that's dumb, that's stupid. The campaign does not call for direct perpetual support from the game's developer or publisher, which is true. Basically, just give people the tools. See, trust me, there are so many games out there that should have died a long time ago, but they got carried hard by their player base because they loved the game. Age of Empires 2, another game that I sank so many hours into as a child, right? That had, for over 20 years now, a very strong, very fucking strong player base. Age of Empires 2. It's why 20 odd years later we got a remake, which was pretty good. I like that they updated the graphics and the buildings actually, instead of just burning and the flames get bigger, they actually collapse slowly as you're destroying them. They basically updated the visuals, but they left a lot of the mechanics pretty much intact. They did add a couple of new units, which I didn't really like. Right, because if I've been playing a game for 20 years and then suddenly you make a change, I'm like, oh, I don't like change. But still, very, very good. But the reason that came out is because of a very, very dedicated player base. And see the guys that have been playing that entire time, I've seen them doing things like basically using see how you can choose the way that your guys stand. Formation, you can change the formation of certain enemy units and everything. I saw guys toggling the formations to dodge volleys of arrows. That's how autistic some of these guys are. They're very good at the game. I went into one professional match and I got fucking bodied. In addition to the crew, other online-only Ubisoft titles include X-Defiant and Hyperscape are similarly no longer playable after service for each ceased in 2022 and 2025, respectively. As of writing, Stop Killing Games has surpassed 1.3 million signatures and is less than 10,000 away from reaching its final goal of 1.4 million. On July the 12th, prominent European politician Nikolai Stefanata voiced his support for the campaign. And there's Pirate Software, who is not having a great time right now in regards to the Stop Killing Games initiative. Now, basically, planned obsolescence is a bad thing. I don't like it. Right, I don't like it. I still boot up the SNES now and again. Like, I've even got the little special attachment for the back of my TV so I can sit there and play my SNES. Right, there's loads and loads of games I still play for the SNES. I like Killer Instinct. I've got the original Donkey Kong. I've got the cartridges. I actually have the old cartridges as well. Desert Strike. Fucking love Desert Strike. Could never, ever get past the second mission as a child, because another thing that some of you Zoomers won't know is games back in the day were very fucking unforgiving. Everybody these days is talking about Dark Souls. You ever play The Lion King? Yeah. You know what happens when you run out of lives in The Lion King? Yeah. Fucking... Oh, that was a rage-inducing game. I've got it. I don't want to look at it, but I've got it. Right, but basically, there are lots and lots of games that get completely carried by their player base. Right, see, for example, Skyrim should have not really went the way of the dodo. It's still always going to be respected as a very good and classic game. However, the reason that the player base was so high is they just released the creation kit. They just fucked it out there into the wild and went, hey, programmers, modders, everybody, have fucking fun. And there are literally tens of thousands of mods for Skyrim where you can literally play through the entire game, and then you can install a different bunch of mods for the next playthrough, and you can have a different experience every single time. It's why Skyrim still has such a massive player base to this day. Basically, if you want your game to continue, give your players the tools, which is why when fucking Bethesda started, oh, we're going to do the Gecko thing, and we're going to charge people for fucking mods that we made ourselves, and we're going to limit how much the creation kit goes out to everyone. It was dumb. It was a really, really stupid idea. It's why Fallout 4's player base. Fallout 4, I kind of enjoyed it. Not the best way to describe Fallout 4, which I heard someone else say, is it's not a bad game, but it's a bad Fallout. That's the best way to describe it. And they limited a lot how much modders had access to, which was really, really fucking annoying. Right? If you want your game to continue to have a very, very active player base, you want it to constantly be in the zeitgeist and being spoken about with memes and still remain popular, just chuck all the tools at your player base. They will carry your game. There are modders out there that can do fucking insane shit. Like building everything all over again from the fucking ground up. But I think there's guys that are actually... don't quote me on this, I might be wrong on it, but they're not guys actually rebuilding Morrowind, but in the Fallout 4 engine. I believe, or is it the Skyrim engine? It's one of the two. But basically, and I think they're nearly done. It's been in the works for years because these guys have actual jobs and families and lives to attend to, and they are not getting fucking paid for this. But still, this is the type of shit modders can do. So, if you want your games to continue, especially via mods, throw the creation kit out there in the wild, just for source code, there you are, everybody have fun, and people will be playing your games and probably buying the multiple other releases of it, like happened with fucking Skyrim, for like 15 years, almost, like, after the games came out. It's why so many people still play Skyrim and not so many people still play Fallout, because Bethesda dropped the ball on that. And it's the exact same story with the servers. If you want to run official servers and you want to do all that stuff, no problem, it's fine. Or the player base is very low now, it's not really worth the money to have the servers anymore. At that point, what you then do is you throw the tools out to the wild and give it to the player base and say, here you are, here's the tools, host your own servers, we're going to give you a few months to get some shit set up, then once there's enough player-owned servers, hey-ho, we'll shut everything down. Right? And then that means if anybody in the future goes, I feel like run the server, or the servers are shut down, oh, here's the tools, I can run my own game, and everybody can still play it. Right? That's an easy, simple solution, you know, regardless of what pirate software tells you.